Welcome, my pretties. Join us today on this Friday the 13th as we spill the tea on Aokigahara Jukai,
Aokigahara Jukai.
Also known as Japan's suicide forest.
I'm Autumn.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Don't You Know? We're going to mix up the intro every time.
Absolutely, because we have no idea what we're doing.
We're like, just raw dogging it, as Haley says.
Raw dogging live.
Oh, jeez. So, many people may know
Aokigahara Jukai
as the forest that Logan Paul went to. The YouTuber, if you don't know.
Yeah, PSA. Don't be a douchebag looking for clout.
Super disrespectful, and we mean no disrespect by doing any of this. This episode might discuss some topics of suicide, mainly.
Self-harm. Killing your grandparents is, but that...
Murder.
Yeah, murder. But I'm sure there's, like, you know how they say, like, patricide, infanticide.
Yeah, so if you're sensitive to that, it's probably not the podcast for you to begin with.
It is rather explicit.
But definitely not the episode. And it's mainly not the episode because it's also referenced as the suicide forest.
So we're absolutely speaking with respect to all of the souls who have traveled there for their final resting place.
Yes. I'm sure it's a very emotional place. It's also a very beautiful place. You look it up on Google and you see some...
So let's start out with a little bit of the geography here.
Yeah.
Let's set the scene. So
it's located at the base of the Fuji Mountains in Japan. First of all, I want to go to Japan someday.
That would be...
I don't want to travel over the ocean by any means. I like my feet on the ground, personally. But, I don't know. If I could go out of country, I feel like Japan would be one of my first places I would want to go. It's just such a different culture from the Midwest, corns.
To get out of the corns?
To get out of the corns. The corns.
The plains. They are boring. We must leave.
We do live in the land of a thousand lakes, so we do get some of that swampy moss textures and stuff like that. That is also seen in those Japan forests, such as this one. For instance, I don't know if you've ever been to a lake with trees and stuff like that, but they all have the moss and the roots just spiraled all over the place. But instead of water, this land would be lava. So it's lava, trees, moss. Get what I'm saying? You picturing it in the picture, bro?
Yes, I am picturing it.
Okay. Good. It's so dense, in fact, that there's the trees like canopy over the ground. So even if you were walking through, it's complete shade, which is the best type of forest.
Sounds like very eerie.
Yeah, very... Yeah,
it dim...
Could definitely be a place where you get lost in your thoughts, for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely quiet, unsettling, or always feeling lost.
I can imagine be very easy to get lost. Especially in instances, so because of the iron content in the soil, if you lay your compass too close to the ground, it can actually malfunction.
Yeah.
It won't show the true north.
That's crazy too. Can you imagine? I'm sure if you were to look at it in a more spooky sense, that could also deal with some energies that are there. And just being just so high energy in the soil with the high iron like you were talking about.
Right.
I'm sure that can mess with your psyche.
Oh, absolutely. If you don't know it's the iron content,
yeah,
thinking that it's a paranormal experience will certainly set you off.
Or it could also be a paranormal experience. I mean, just think about it. How many...
Well, yeah, they do say that it's haunted by Yurei.
And I don't know if we get into this, but a little fact I looked up, you can just look up how many suicides do occur in the suicide forest. I think it said something about 100 a year.
Yeah, it did estimate roughly 100 a year.
That's crazy.
That is a very...
But yeah, something about 100 a year. So that's such a extreme number if you honestly think about just one place. So I'm sure the iron levels and things such as that is also an active volcano.
It is an active volcano.
So that ground could be shaken, and you could be hallucinating on something, because we like to party. You never know. That's crazy. I could definitely see being an active volcano, just the beauty that can be made. Caves and such stuff like that. Narusawa. Ice cave.
Mm-hmm.
Haley is much better at pronouncing things. Just know that we are very Midwestern.
We're trying.
And we don't speak fluent Japanese, so we're going to butcher some words. Apologies, no disrespect.
Absolutely. Another thing to note about it being an active volcano, because there are some of the thin spots in the ground, when it erupts, the lava actually comes through the thin parts of the crust instead of erupting like you would traditionally think a volcano does out of the top. The lava actually comes seeping out of the sides of the volcano, I do believe.
A little bit more about the geography. It's definitely not like an easy hike.
It is certainly not an easy hike because the ground is so dense and hard, since it's hard and lava. The roots of the trees, most of the trees being coniferous trees, I think like tall pine trees.
Yeah.
They sprawl out over the terrain.
Yeah.
So you're tripping over gnarled roots that, like you said, are covered in this slick moss.
Yeah. Try walking on moss.
No, because you slip.
Exactly.
And it's like walking on a squishy carpet.
Ew. I just actually think you put some wet socks on, walk on some wet shag
socks.
carpet.
Oh, all right.
Getting back to the forest.
Yes.
It's noted that signs of human life disappear just short of 2 miles into the forest. So that's not that long of a hike. I mean, it might be some for us thicker girls out there.
We're getting like 500 feet in there before we're like, no, we're going to turn around.
2 miles is definitely not.
No. And the forest is that you can actually see strings left behind by hikers.
Oh, that's so ominous.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
You hope that they got out,
Have you heard about Doll Island?
Yes.
So maybe we'll do an episode on that.
We absolutely have to.
Because I've definitely seen Ghost Adventures.
It's
They've done an episode on it.
Because it's absolutely innocent, but it's still incredibly fucking creepy.
It is. It's very creepy. But the story behind it, very innocent and tragic. A sad girl lost her life.
Absolutely.
So that's sad. But
just out there with all those moldy dolls.
Maybe we'll have to do a story on that one day because
I don't have to put it together like an episode of pictures.
Yeah, I don't exactly know where that island's located.
We'll have to research.
Yeah, maybe we'll get an episode out there.
Download some book.
It's not all beautiful in this Aokigahara forest. Many people travel there. It's a very, very popular tourist destination. But sadly, for about 100 people a year, as we were saying previously, it is their final resting place. It is the second most sought after destination for suicide, to being second only to the Golden State Bridge. That's
both sites are taking measures.
Are they?
Yes.
Good.
I think the Golden Gate Bridge constructed a net.
Yeah.
Or is constructing a net. I didn't write it in the notes. Whoops. But yes, both are taking measures. Aokigahara also has signs where it says, like, please, consider your family, reach out for help.
Yeah.
Signs, with the number for their helplines, their suicide helplines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you're in Japan, number 4.
Yeah. They also stopped recording and reporting statistics for suicides found in the forest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they no longer record it as a death in Aokigahara. They actually attribute it to a nearby town. So depending on the region of the forest, they'll be like, they died in this town.
Yeah.
as a sort of deterrent to the popularization.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes.
It's most popular, sadly.
The end of their fiscal year in March is known as the suicide season.
Yeah.
Many people find themselves buried in debt.
Is that their end of the year?
Yeah, that's like their tax time.
Okay.
Yeah. So when they're getting their tax statements and they're finding themselves, like I said, buried in debt, sometimes to, less than legitimate loaners, loan sharks, oftentimes. And so because there's a different view on suicide in Japan, I do believe their life insurance will still cover in cases of suicide. Like here in America, if you commit suicide, your life insurance doesn't pay out. If I remember correctly, in Japan it's seen differently. So life insurance will still pay out. So people will seek out to, complete suicide in order for their family to get the life insurance policy. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, which is mega sad.
Yes. And again, they are trying to take measures to change the idea. It's very deeply seated in their culture.
Yeah.
And later slides, Autumn will discuss seppuku, which is a part of the Japanese culture, and why the mindset is so different to how we Westerners view ending your own life.
Much different thinkings.
Yes.
Bringing it back to the forest, during this time, they hold searches regularly.
They do.
With attempts of law enforcement and volunteers and stuff like that, where they can be anywhere from 70 to 100 pounds in 1 year, as we were previously discussing again, which is uber sad, obviously. I can't even imagine. There is a stigma in the Western culture. It doesn't hold the same connotation as it does over here. Far back in the Japanese culture, there was a practice called
seppuku.
Seppuku?
Something like that.
That was used by the samurai when they brought shame to their families.
Through death, they could restore honor to their family name.
Which is crazy. I mean, the thinking isn't crazy because that's just what they thought, but whoa.
It was better to die than to dishonor.
Yeah.
I didn't read too much into it. I am a Westerner.
We are Westerners.
Yes.
This mentality is deeply seated into Japanese culture. In the 1960s, a novel titled
Kuroi Jukai, written by Seiichi Matsumoto, was published.
It was a tale of two young lovers, a housewife and an attorney. Just before they were to run off together, the young woman travels to the Aokigahara to end her life. This is an extremely popular novel, even made into television dramas. A completed suicide manual was also published, centering around Aokigahara. These books have attributed it to some sort of fame to the forest for people to latch onto and take their ideas, which is
giving it a sort of reverence.
Yeah.
Macabre popularity, in a sense.
It's intense.
It is very intense to see how how people are called to the same destination. Sometimes we look back on events in history, like, what is it? The medieval dancing craze of, was it France, Germany? remember.
I don't know which one you're referencing.
No, you never heard of that one?
No.
Oh. Shit, I might have to look that up because I can't, put my finger on it, but I know what I've heard. But, a mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Or even the Salem witch trials.
Maybe I have heard. I've definitely heard of the term mass
There was,
hysteria.
a whole town that danced themselves.
Yeah, no, okay, I have.
Yeah. You had to, at least in passing.
Yeah.
Right? Vaguely remember.
As we mentioned a little earlier in the episode, Haley was talking about, due to the high suicide rate in the Aokigahara forest, Japanese authorities have added signs to the forest such as thinking of your family, please reconsider, and phone numbers for the suicide hotline, like Haley said, the number 4. They have also ceased listing Aokigahara as a location of death on certificates. Again, like Haley referenced earlier. We're just getting to that side of the notes. We're going to keep going through the notes, duh.
Yeah, you don't have to say like Haley said, just keep going through it.
Well, you did. You mentioned it earlier.
I suppose.
This, of course, leads to many people to suspect the forest of being haunted. I mean, with all those souls, how could it not be? Until the 1960s, Yurei were once thought to be the vengeful spirits of the victims of Uba Sute. God damn it. Yurei were once thought to be the vengeful spirits of the victims of the Uba Sute. Then, in the 1960s, the legends changed so that the Yurei were soulmen's souls that took their lives here. The number of Yureis is said to be in the thousands. Yureis are the souls of the departed who lived and died suddenly or violently, with strong emotions attached to them. In Japanese culture, everyone has a reikin, or soul, that awaits in the form of a purgatory. For proper last rites to be performed so the reikin may move on to join the ancestors and become a protector of the living family. Instead, they are held back by earthly demands, haunting their place of death in the early hours from 2 to 2:30. You know, that's when my spirit in my room comes out to party.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that when you started seeing the people outside the window too?
No, that was earlier, but I actually think there were actual people outside the window.
Oh, okay.
I think there were people in it.
But your man with the glasses in the house? Yeah. At the witching hour?
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
It is. When the veil, and the reason that is because the veil between the worlds are the thinnest, or emotional conflict has been resolved.
Yurei are described as often being legless, simply floating in the air with their elbows close to their torso, hands limp and dangling at the wrist. Their hair is usually black, tangled mess. They're often said to be accompanied by little ball of flames, kind of like a will-o'-the-wisp.
Like an orb?
Yeah.
Nice.
So they're rather scary looking, as it's going to be. No legs, arms tucked up, just limp wrists hanging.
Yeah. There are many stories of hauntings associated with the Aokigahara forest.
In the form of a Jack Skellington doll, nailed upside down to a tree with its face cut out. This is said to be a symbol of contempt for society. This is one of many curses that are left by visitors.
Also, a blood-curdling scream, often heard from coming the depths of the forest. The call of the Yurei, a journalist from the Japan Times, claims to have heard such a scream, and when he followed it, he discovered a corpse of a man who had been there for a while. So it couldn't have been him who screamed. Maybe it was his spirit. Visitors will also claim to see flimsy white ghosts floating between trees, lost souls who abandoned their lives here, or just spooky hopefulness. Because of the close proximity to Mount Fuji, Aokigahara holds spiritual significance in many Japanese religions. Buddhist monks have set up altars throughout the forest in efforts to combat the evil forces at play there. As they say, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, as their altars have drawn people to end their lives beside them. As they say, their path to hell is paved with good intentions, as these altars have drawn people to end their lives beside them. Granted, they may have been there to commit suicide anyway, but perhaps they saw this as more of a way to die, giving themselves a makeshift last rite in order to not become a Yurei. Needless to say, the Aokigahara is surrounded in mystery and sadness. Yes, it can be spooky, but at the end of the day, we must treat the forest and its inhabitants, ethereal or corporeal, with respects to many people who have felt so alone and overwhelmed, unable to reach out, that they ended their lives. If you are experiencing any thoughts of self-harm or suicide, please reach out and dial the American Suicide Hotline and at 988 to speak with somebody. Or as Haley mentioned earlier, Japanese, or Japan, is number 4. Research on the pod. Research on the pod. Trying to make sure we got the correct information. Don't be sad, be glad. If you're sad, reach out. Or not. That's not my place to say, but you probably should, because that's not cool. No. That's not cool. Don't be sad, be glad. Research on the pod. Yeah, research on the pod. She's doing the research.
The hotline number should be 81 35286 9090.
For Japan?
Yes, the Japanese
Suicide Hotline.
suicide.
So, I don't know what number 4 was, but that is the correct Japanese hotline if you are in need of help.
That was for Tokyo?
That was for Tokyo, you said?
Yeah. Osaka? I'm sure someone will throw it down in the comments. Be like, you're dumb. This is what it is.
Is it 988?
It could be 988. Or the one that I had mentioned previously.
The one Haley read off previously was a number that we found on the internet for the Japanese suicide hotline. If you have any other suicide hotlines,
please drop them so that I can
we'll put them in the show notes. Research them. Make sure that we're a little more organized with specifics on that stuff for next time, so we can give the proper resources in case someone's in help or in need. We'd love to help, but that's all we can do because we're not you. Anyway.
Yeah. My 5-minute research here and there between daily life.
This has been another episode of Don't You Know? I'm Autumn.
And I'm Haley.
And don't forget
to lock your door.